You're standing in line. The elevator is taking too long. There is a 30-second wait, and your hand is already reaching for your phone. You do not even decide to do it. It just happens. Because there is a feeling you will do almost anything to escape, and you feel it dozens of times a day. Boredom. And here is what almost no one realizes about it. Boredom is not a flaw. It is not laziness or weakness. It is one of the most powerful tools evolution ever gave us, a force that may have helped build civilization itself. And we have spent the last 15 years switching it off, without really asking what it was for. Picture the ordinary version. A quiet, empty moment. Nothing to do. That slightly itchy, restless discomfort starts to rise. In the past, you might have stared out a window, let your mind drift, gotten lost in a thought. Now that moment lasts about 2 seconds before you fill it. A screen, a scroll, a hit of something new. The empty moment is gone before it can even fully form. We treat boredom like an enemy to be defeated. But to understand what we are actually doing, you have to ask a strange question first. Why do we even feel it? Look at the rest of the animal world. A lion that is not hunting does not pace around feeling like its life lacks meaning. It just rests. A cat can sleep 16 hours a day, perfectly content. In the wild, animals do not seem to sit around restless and dissatisfied, aching for something more interesting to happen. They are either doing something or they are calmly doing nothing. Humans are different. We have this nagging, restless engine inside us that makes doing nothing feel almost unbearable. And that is not an accident. That discomfort is a signal, and it is an incredibly useful one. Here is what boredom is really telling you. This situation is no longer worth your attention. There is nothing to learn here, nothing to gain. Go find something better. Boredom is the itch that pushes you up off the ground and out into the world. It is the feeling that made a restless ancestor wander over the next hill to see what was there. It made someone tired of doing things the old way try something new. It drove exploration, invention, curiosity, art. Every great leap forward started with a human being who could not quite stand to leave things as they were. In other words, boredom is not the absence of life. It is the engine of change. A creature perfectly content to do nothing forever, invents nothing, explores nothing, builds nothing. We conquered the planet in part because we are the animal that cannot sit still inside an empty moment. Boredom made us reach. And to understand what we are really losing, you have to know what your brain is doing in those empty moments. When you stop focusing on a task, when you stare out a window, walk with no destination, or lie in bed letting your thoughts drift, your brain does not power down. It switches into a different mode. A kind of background network that becomes more active when you are not paying attention to anything in particular. And in that drifting state, your mind does some of its most important work. It sorts through memories. It quietly chews on problems you thought you had given up on. It connects ideas that do not normally touch. It runs little simulations of your future, rehearsing conversations, imagining what might happen, figuring out who you are and where you are going. This is the soil that imagination, planning, and self-understanding grow out of. It is why your best ideas so often arrive in the shower, or on a walk, or in the foggy minutes before sleep. Moments when you finally stopped trying and let the machine run free. Boredom is the doorway into that room. The restless discomfort is just the threshold you have to cross to get inside. And we have spent the last 15 years bricking that doorway shut, one notification at a time, without stopping to ask what was on the other side of it. Researchers have even found that people who sit through something boring before a creative task can become more creative afterward, as if the boredom warmed up the engine. So boredom, it turns out, is not empty at all. It is the blank space where your mind finally gets to think. And now here is the unsettling contrast. We have done something no humans before us ever managed. We have made boredom almost completely optional. There is now, every second of every day, an infinite supply of stimulation sitting in your pocket. The instant that restless feeling appears, you can erase it. A scroll, a video, a notification. You never have to be bored again. That sounds like a victory. It might be one of the quietest losses in human history. Because if boredom is the doorway to imagination, and we have sealed that doorway shut, what happens to the imagination behind it? We have taken every empty moment, every line, every wait, every walk, every quiet minute before sleep, and stuffed it full of someone else's content. We have removed the exact mental downtime where reflection happens, where ideas connect, where you actually hear yourself think. We did not beat boredom. We may have amputated the part of the mind that boredom was built to feed. Think about what that means on a human level. The daydreams you are not having. The ideas that never form because the silence they needed got filled. The self-reflection that never happens because the moment it would have appeared, you reached for the screen instead. There is a strange experiment running right now, on a scale we have never seen before, and the test subjects are an entire generation. For the first time in human history, there are children growing up who may have almost never been truly bored. Not the kind of bored where the mind has no escape. The moment a flicker of that restless feeling appears, in the car, in the waiting room, in the line, in the bathroom, in the half-second before sleep, there is a glowing rectangle ready to erase it instantly. They have never had to sit inside an empty moment and wait for their own mind to fill it. They have never discovered what they think about when there is nothing to think about. They have never met the version of themselves that only shows up in the silence. We genuinely do not know yet what that does to a developing mind, because no humans before them have ever lived quite this way. But here is the unsettling possibility. If boredom is the engine of curiosity, the doorway to imagination, and the quiet space where you figure out who you are, then a person who is never truly bored might be missing something they will never even know to look for. You cannot miss a room you have never entered, and an entire generation may be growing up without ever opening the door. So here is a strange idea, maybe even a small act of rebellion. Try being bored on purpose. Stand in the line and do not reach for your phone. Take the walk with nothing in your ears. Lie awake for a few minutes and let your mind go wherever it wants. It will feel uncomfortable. That discomfort is the engine starting up. That itch is the doorway opening. And here is the trap most of us have fallen into without noticing. We think that when we pull out the phone in a dull moment, we are resting. But we are not. Scrolling is not rest. It is a low, constant drip of shallow stimulation that keeps your brain just busy enough to never drop into that deeper drifting mode where the real work happens. You can spend an entire evening flooding your mind with videos and in the night feeling strangely tired and hollow, somehow more drained than if you had done nothing at all. That is because you never actually gave your mind a break. You kept it idling in the shallows, consuming, reacting, twitching from one thing to the next, never letting it sink into the quiet depths where it sorts, connects, and creates. True boredom, real, screenless, uncomfortable emptiness, is a completely different thing from the endless, shallow snacking of the feed. One opens the doorway, the other slams it shut while convincing you that you are relaxing. We did not replace boredom with rest. We replaced it with something that looks like rest, feels a little like rest, and quietly starves us of the one thing rest was actually for. Because boredom was never the problem. It was the beginning. It was the restless, uncomfortable, deeply human feeling that pushed us over every hill and into every new idea we ever had. We just handed ourselves away to never feel it again. And we may not yet understand what we gave up to make the silence go away.